There's something curious about human nature. We want to be right. We cling to it, defend it, and wear it like armor. And yet, the more we insist on being right, the more blind we often become. The man who must always be correct may appear strong, confident, unshakable. But underneath, there's fear. Fear of being seen as ignorant. Fear of being exposed. Fear of losing the identity he has built around his opinions. Think about it. How many times have you argued with someone not because the truth mattered, but because you didn't want to lose? You wanted to walk away thinking, I showed them. But what exactly did you win? Maybe you silenced the other person. Maybe you proved your point with louder words, but did you grow wiser? Or did you just build another wall around your own ignorance? Jiddu Krishnamurti once said that truth is a living thing, not a conclusion. And when you hold on tightly to being right, you are no longer searching. You are no longer alive to what is. You're simply repeating the same patterns, protecting an image of yourself. That image says, I am right, I know, I understand. But does it? Or is it just an echo of the past? Now consider the opposite. The person who can say, I might be wrong, let me look again, let me listen. At first, such a person might appear weak. They don't fight to defend themselves. They don't rush to prove a point. But in that openness, something remarkable happens. By admitting the possibility of being wrong, they become available to truth. They are no longer guarding a fortress. They are exploring a landscape. The paradox is striking. The man who insists he is right often ends up trapped in error. The man who allows himself to be wrong discovers what is right. Why is that? Because truth doesn't belong to anyone. It's not your truth or my truth. It's not something you can own or defend. It exists beyond opinion. To touch it, you must be free of the compulsion to be correct. Imagine two friends having a disagreement. One insists, I know, I'm sure, I cannot be wrong. The other says, perhaps I don't know. Let's look deeper. Which one is closer to understanding? The one who admits ignorance. Because in that admission, there's humility. And humility is the beginning of learning. But our culture doesn't celebrate humility, does it? We reward certainty. We admire the person who speaks with authority, even if their words are shallow. We clap for confidence, not wisdom. And so we've created a society where being right is more important than being true, where debate replaces dialogue, where victory matters more than discovery. Have you noticed this in yourself? When someone corrects you, even gently, what happens inside? A little spark of irritation, maybe anger. You feel attacked. Why? Because your identity is tied to being right. To admit a mistake feels like losing a part of yourself. So you resist, you push back, you defend, and in that moment, you stop learning. But what if being wrong isn't a loss? What if it's a gift? Every time you discover you were mistaken, you are closer to reality. You shed an illusion. You drop a falsehood. Isn't that progress? Isn't that growth? Krishnamurti often warned against the danger of certainty. He said the mind that is certain is a dead mind. It no longer questions. It no longer observes. It only repeats. But a mind that says, I may be wrong, is alive. It is fresh, open, curious. And in that openness, truth can be seen. Let's bring this down to something very practical. Think about relationships. How many marriages, friendships, families fall apart because both sides want to be right? Each one defends their position, their memory of what happened, their sense of justice. The argument is never about truth. It's about ego. Who wins, who loses. And so love disappears, buried under the weight of pride. But imagine if one person, just one, could step back and say, maybe I was wrong. Maybe I didn't see clearly. Let's look again. That simple act could dissolve the conflict, not because one surrendered to the other, but because the walls of defensiveness fell away. When no one is trying to win, truth has space to enter. So here we are, faced with a strange reality. The more you want to be right, the more likely you are to be wrong. The more you are willing to be wrong, the more likely you are to find what is right. It sounds upside down, but it's not. It's simply how truth works. Being right is an obsession with the self. Being open to being wrong is freedom from the self. And only in freedom can truth reveal itself. The next time you feel that urge to prove, to argue, to insist, pause. Ask yourself, am I defending truth or am I defending me? If it's the latter, then maybe being wrong is the doorway to being truly right. You see, being wrong is not the enemy. The real enemy is the fear of being wrong. That fear shapes us. It controls the way we talk, the way we argue, even the way we think. And because of that fear, we cling harder to our opinions, to our conclusions. We fight to preserve an image of ourselves as intelligent, knowledgeable, strong. But the image is not real. It is fragile, constantly needing to be defended. When you are free from that fear, life feels different. You no longer approach conversations as battles to win. You approach them as opportunities to learn. You are not protecting an identity. You are exploring reality. And in that exploration, even a mistake becomes valuable. Because every mistake shows you what is false. And once the false drops away, what remains is true. Think about how children learn. A child doesn't walk perfectly the first time. They stumble, they fall, they get back up. Each fall is not a failure, but part of the discovery. But as adults, we've lost that innocence. We are ashamed of falling. We want to appear as though we already know, as though we never make mistakes. And so we stop learning. We cling to the little we know and call it wisdom. Krishnamurti once said, "To learn is to be vulnerable. It means to admit you don't already know, to step into the unknown without fear." The person who can say, "I was wrong," is not weak. They are alive. They are growing. But the one who insists, "I cannot be wrong," is already dead inside. Their mind is fixed, rigid, closed. Look at our society today. Politicians, leaders, public figures. How often do they admit they were wrong? Almost never. Because in the eyes of the crowd, being wrong means losing power. But in truth, their refusal to admit wrong keeps them blind. They make the same mistakes again and again, and people suffer. Now imagine if even one leader had the courage to say, "I was mistaken. Let us look again." That moment of humility could change everything. But humility is rare, because ego is worshipped. Now turn inward. In your daily life, where do you cling to being right? With your partner? At work? With your friends? Do you notice how heavy it feels, carrying the need to win every argument? That heaviness is the weight of ego. But when you allow yourself to be wrong, that weight drops. Suddenly there's lightness, freedom, space for connection. The relationship heals, not because one side defeated the other, but because truth was given room to breathe. Being right is about the self. Truth is about reality. The two are not the same. The self wants comfort, recognition, victory. Truth asks for none of that. Truth simply is. And you can only see it when the self is quiet. When you're not busy proving, defending, insisting. When you are simply watching, listening, being open. So the question is not whether you are right or wrong. The question is, can you let go of the need to be either? Can you meet life without the armor of certainty, without the walls of opinion? Can you step into the unknown without fear? If you can, then every moment becomes alive. Every conversation becomes an opportunity. Every mistake becomes a teacher. And in that openness, what is right will reveal itself. Not because you demanded it, not because you argued for it, but because you were humble enough to see. Remember this paradox. The one who clings to being right is already lost. The one who allows himself to be wrong is closer to truth. So don't be afraid of being wrong. Be afraid of the pride that refuses to see it. For pride blinds, but humility opens the eyes. And maybe, just maybe, the moment you stop needing to be right, you finally discover what is true. But let's look deeper. Why do we hold so tightly to being right? Is it only pride, or is there something more? Maybe it's because certainty feels safe. When you say, "I know," you build a shelter around yourself. You feel secure, protected from doubt, from confusion, from the vastness of the unknown. But that security is an illusion. Life is uncertain. It is fluid, always moving, always changing. And when you hide behind certainty, you are resisting life itself. You are clinging to the past, to conclusions drawn yesterday, hoping they will protect you today. Yet truth is never fixed. It cannot be captured in a conclusion. To live in truth, you must live without shelter, without the false comfort of always being right. Only then can you meet life directly without distortion. So in the end, it's not about winning arguments or proving your worth. It's about letting go of the need to always be right. The moment you can admit, I may be wrong, you step into freedom. In that freedom, learning begins. In that humility, relationships heal. And in that openness, truth shows itself, not as something you can own, but as something you can see. Remember, the one who clings to being right is blind, but the one who accepts being wrong discovers clarity. And perhaps that clarity is the beginning of real wisdom.